Hi, this is our presentation for Eagle Materials Incorporation. We are Group 5. My name is Michael Franklin.
My name is Emanuela Perez.
My name is Haley Vivenzo.
And I'm Joey Zagami.
Here is a table of contents that we'll be covering in today's PowerPoint, starting with the company background. Eagle Materials Incorporation, a top supplier of building supplies with its corporate office located in Dallas, Texas. CEO Michael Hack joined Eagle Materials in December 2014 as Chief Operating Officer. He was promoted to President and Chief Operating Officer in August 2018 and was appointed President and Chief Executive Officer in July 2019. The business is divided into the following sections. First, starting with cement, gypsum wallboard, recycled paperboard, concrete, aggregates divisions. All the manufactured goods are produced in the United States. Eagle Materials, which was once a subsidiary of Centex Corporation, underwent a spin-off transaction in January 2004 to become totally independent business. The operating strategy, in simplest terms, is they achieve their status as the lowest cost producer by innovating the use of fewer resources than others to make the same commodities. Specifically, less energy, mineral resources, paper, water, and waste, and more recycled resources than other producers. The sustainability of Eagle Materials' environmental and social disclosure report outlines their ongoing strategies to maximize the societal benefits of products that we make while minimizing the company's environmental footprint. This is the benchmark analysis on Eagle Materials Incorporation. When compared to its rivals, Eagle Materials Incorporation recorded a 20.7% year-over-year rise in total revenue for the first quarter of 2022. The sales growth outpaced the 17.63% average revenue growth of Eagle Materials Incorporation's rivals during the same quarter. Competitors consist of Vulcan Materials Company, Martin Marietta Materials Incorporation. With a net margin of 17.99%, company achieved higher profitability than its competitors. Due to strong revenue growth of 20.7% in overall company, Eagle Materials Incorporation improved its market share to approximately 6.99%, which is a huge growth. You're looking at the revenue growth comparison. As you can see, the company revenue for year to year in the first quarter of 2022 has gone to 20.7%, as its competitors' revenue was 17.63. There was a huge spike in this beginning of the year, and they're constantly growing. With the company revenue growth of quarter to quarter, they, however, were down 10%, and it was fluctuated depending on the market and all that. Then compared to the revenue of the competitors, they were at 11.76. But in the long run, with the year-to-year date, we still outcompete the other competitors. Now I'm going to hand it off to Joey to discuss the internal analysis.
Yeah, so there are many things that make our company different from many other companies. That includes pricing, quality of product, United States sales reach, and experience. The reason that this company is very successful is the pricing. They have a very cheap pricing model where it's very inexpensive cement. You can see here that it's a valuable, inimitable, and exploitable resource, but it's not rare because these industries are very competitive. A lot of other companies have these low prices. That's why it's competitive parity. For the quality of product, it is the same. It's in the same boat as competitive parity, as is valuable, inimitable, and exploitable, but it's not rare because a lot of these companies do produce high quality products. With the United States sales reach, this is one of the things that we do have above our competitors, as we, even though we're focused in the heartland of the United States, we do reach from coast to coast. We do have sales in California, New York, Florida. We do have sales all over the United States, and experience is very important too. While it's not rare or inimitable, because these companies, these cement companies have been around since the early 1900s, we've also been around since then. That's why it's a competitive variety. All right, so now I'm gonna go over the strengths and weaknesses we have in this industry. So we have significant experience. This company was founded in the early 1960s and has been around for around over 60 years. That is actually pretty old compared to a lot of these new cement industries, which is they have experience totally under their belt. Additionally, low prices are very important in this market. Price fluctuates very high. It goes very high and low. And we're able to keep prices very low and keep it very low compared to competitors. Additionally, the quality of product is very high. So when it comes to our range, we do reach nationwide, coast to coast, as I mentioned the last slide. This is something that we have over our competitors. And another strength we have is that we always have net higher margins and revenue growth compared to the competition. So we also unfortunately have some weaknesses. And in the cement industry, one of the weaknesses is that every single company essentially offers these same products. They're all cement, there's not much diversity. There's some quality distribution, but for the most part, essentially they're the same products. Additionally, just like a lot of other cement companies, they're not involved in any other industries. They focus mainly on cement and cement aggregates. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a nationwide company. However, like many cement companies, they're focused in certain regions. So as you see here, I included a picture where we have the locations of all the plants. Our company is mainly focused in the Rust Belt and the Midwest, specifically with the headquarters in Texas. That is where the majority of sales and distribution go, but we do have sales in many other states too. So now I'm going to go over the opportunities and threats this company faces. So first off, this company has a great opportunity of creating an eco-friendly concrete or cement. This has not been done yet, and going into this new wave of eco-friendly materials with this push towards environmentalism, this is a huge opportunity we can capitalize on. There are many small companies that are actually looking towards research for eco-friendly concrete, but they don't have the capital or size to do so. So this is a great opportunity for a large company. That being said, I think it would be very wise to expand into other industries, specifically maybe metals or construction materials. Being in the construction business, concrete is huge. And why not expand that into metals or construction? I mean, this is something most other cement companies do not do, and this could be a huge opportunity. Additionally, after looking through their revenue streams and looking through their documents, they do not have many government contracts. They can really up their sales and really spread their business by accepting more government contracts and doing more government work. Additionally, new technologies and innovations can always push them forward. Concrete is a pretty straight up process. There's not much new innovations that have been going on these last few years. So new technological innovation would really push them ahead. Additionally, while we are currently contained in the United States, expansion overseas could be a very viable option to boost sales. Moving on to the threat side, these companies could be very slow to move because they're very complacent for sales. So if you're not an early mover, it may be very hard to catch up. So that being said, you can implement this idea to the eco-friendly side. If another company implements an eco-friendly material, it's going to be very hard catching up and taking advantage of that opportunity. This is a highly competitive industry. There's not a single one company that has a huge percentage of the market share. Most companies are kind of isolated in certain regions of the United States. So we have our region, but it's very competitive. So that's why it's hard to branch out into other regions. Additionally, another threat will be the high fluctuation in concrete prices. You see, with concrete, the price fluctuates based on the price of materials. It can go anywhere from $4.25 per pound up to $5.75 per pound, which is a big fluctuation. So that being said, these fluctuations can impact sales in the long run. And same thing with new technological innovations. As it can be used as an opportunity, it can be also used as a threat. Other companies can capitalize on this and you can be lagged behind. And be a slow mover. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the Porter's 5 forces, which is involved in this industry. So industry rivalry is very high. Every single company does not have a significant portion of the market share. It's dominated by about companies all within a 200 million to 800 million revenue range. That's why this industry rivalry is very high. There's also a very low threat of new entrants. This is because it's very expensive to start a concrete industry, and these industries have been around since the early 1900s. Buyer power is also very low, as the buyers do not affect the price. The price is based on the suppliers and the price of materials. So the buyers have really no power whatsoever when it comes to buying this good. Their substitute is also very, very low because concrete is an essential product in today's society. And there's really no other product that is a good substitute, whether it be wood, bamboo, sand. These materials are not good or useful for large scale construction. If you go into any city, concrete is a necessity. Honestly, anywhere you go, it's a necessity now. Supplier power, I say moderate high. Most suppliers have a lot of power over the price of their products because they're the ones that set the prices. The buyers do not set the prices. However, the reason it's not a 5 out of 5 is because the price of the materials also influences the prices. So if the materials are very high, they don't have much control over that. All right, to go into a little more detail with industry rivalry, industry description, I'm just gonna go over the 5 I just mentioned in a little more detail. So as I said, no one company has a significant market share and the product is very standardized. And as I mentioned before, the majority of the plants are in the Midwest and the Rust Belt. The plant placement is key. That is where you're going to sell to. Concrete is very expensive to ship. So you cannot ship it from coast to coast. It has to be very close to the production plant. That is why industry rivalry is so high, because they have essentially certain zones of the United States that they have a monopoly on. Threats of new entrants is very high because it's expensive and these large companies have been around for a long time, as I just mentioned. I talked about buyer power last slide, where the buyers do not determine the prices. Threat of substitute, same thing. It's very necessary. Concrete is very necessary and there's no good substitute for it currently. And supplier power, I also went into decent detail last slide. There's very high price variation. And also one thing I didn't talk about was the quality of concrete. These suppliers, while there isn't much variation in the product, there is different qualities that you can't buy. So the suppliers can offer different qualities depending on what material you're looking for. And as I mentioned in the last 2 slides, this isn't a industry dominated by just 1 or 2 companies. As you see here, there are about 6 or 7 companies that actually have a decent share of the industry, the decent industry share. This is income in millions of dollars on the 2021 year. And as you see, Marietta Group, Vulcan Materials, Eagle Materials, MD Research Group, they all have significant market shares. So this is very competitive.
So on this slide, we're going to discuss the 5 forces model developed by Michael Porter. We used it to examine the external environment of Eagle Materials and the industry structure surrounding the company. We're going to talk about competitive rivalry, the bargaining power of suppliers, the bargaining power of customers, the threat of new entrants, and the threat of substitute products. So within the Eagle Materials industry, the rivalry is high to very high. Price reductions and a decline in the industry's overall profitability will result from fierce competition among the existing companies. The total long-term profitability of the company is affected by this competition. Eagle Materials can handle this intense rivalry among current competitors by creating a long-lasting distinction, increasing its size to be more competitive, and partnering with rivals to expand the market rather than only fighting for a small market. With the bargaining power of suppliers, there's difficult economic conditions and suppliers are adversely affected in capital and credit markets. Eagle Materials gets their raw materials from third parties and contracts may not renew or be replaced as there are changes in the cost for the raw materials. The cost to procure the raw materials will increase significantly. Suppliers can use their bargaining power to negotiate higher prices from firms like Eagle Materials, therefore lowering the profit of Eagle Materials. Eagle Materials can approach the bargaining power of suppliers with strategies to have suppliers whose business depends on the firm and finding substitute materials to replace others if prices become too high, and also streamlining their supply chain with several suppliers. For the bargaining power of customers, Eagle Materials plants are located near their customers in the United States. Demand for the Eagle Materials products depends on local levels of construction activity. The revenue comes from customers who are in businesses and industries that are subject to economic conditions that fluctuate. The construction industry is affected by things such as the infrastructure spending, interest rate changes, and demographic shifts. With the same difficult economic conditions, especially like how it was due to the pandemic, there's delays in collecting payments from customers. Economic recessions in the industries and local regions that buy products from Eagle Materials can have an unfavorable effect on the demand for products. Eagle Materials should innovate new products and enter new markets since, like Joey said, right now they only create cement, and they can gather a large customer base to reduce the bargaining power of buyers. For the threat of new entrants, there's new players in the cement market. They bring innovation and new methods of operation, and this could threaten Eagle Materials. And they do this by reducing costs or raising prices and providing clients with different offers. So increasing resources and investing in research and development in competitive market, Eagle Materials can set the standards, and new entrants will have less reason to join the market. So for the threat of substitute products, the products Eagle Materials sells are commodities, and competition is mainly based on price. Eagle Materials is a low-cost producer focusing on reducing costs to make operations more efficient, giving them competitive advantage. An increase in production capacity of other companies or increase in imports of cement create oversupply, but there are few substitutes that can imitate the same low-cost production as Eagle Materials. Therefore, buyers are less likely to switch to other substitute products.
So the SWOT analysis table is going to go over the internal and external factors, their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the current environment of the company. So we'll start out with the internal factors. So the first one is management. So the strength of the management team is an experienced management team with the average of industry experience of 20 years. The weakness of management currently is that it's split up and the communication is hindered due to COVID-19 concerns. As for offerings, the strengths of the company's offerings are a substantial raw material reserves that span from 25 to 50 years of use, and this provides certainty of supply and cost of primary materials. The weaknesses are that these raw materials used to make cement, limestone, gypsum, etc., are non-renewable resources. For personnel, the strengths are the personnel consists of over 2,000 well-trained employees that go through continuous training and attend seminars to ensure safety in the workplace. The weaknesses are currently it takes a longer amount of time to complete tasks due to separation of task forces due to COVID-19 concerns. As for finance, the strengths are that the company utilizes a low-cost producer position, which produces higher margins and free cash flow. The weaknesses are that cement has a low value to weight ratio, so the cost of transporting is high and places limitations on shipments. And for manufacturing, the company has abundant reserves of raw material needed to make cement, with many avenues to acquire it, whether it's company-owned or leased reserves or purchased from outside suppliers. The weaknesses of this is prices of raw materials used to fuel these plants continue to increase. So coal, petroleum, natural gas, and other fossil fuels. As for research and development, the strengths are that the company is always actively looking for ways to increase sustainability to combat these rising prices of raw materials. The weaknesses are a lot of expenses goes into shifting with the market changes due to these rising prices of the products. And as for external factors, the first one is going to be consumer and social. So the opportunities of this is organic and sustainable platforms appeal to the highly educated consumers that will pay more for environmentally friendly methods of production. The threats of this is the company typically doesn't enter long-term consumer relationships due to the industry climate. The competitive factor, the opportunities of this is the industry, while it's highly competitive, is also highly fragmented. So there's no big players and not one company that's dominating the whole field. And the threat of this is companies can only make a certain amount of profit within 50 miles of the plants due to transportation costs. As for technological, the opportunities are regular effort going into investing new technologies to control emission and fuel that is being burnt. The threats are the current technologies, while they're following the regulations and guidelines, they're still not as sustainable as competitors. As for economic, the barrier of entries are high, so there is not much new competition coming in. And the threats are the sales activity is based on construction activities. So depending on weather conditions, ability to provide reasonable rates and fluctuations in local economies. So it is highly cyclical. And as for legal and regulatory factors, the environmental regulations coincide with the company's passionate platform for sustainability. And the threats of the legal and regulatory factors are the regulations of distribution and zoning greatly limit the range of consumers that each individual plant can reach. And the next slide is going to be looking at the strategies used by Eagle Materials. So the first one is being a low-cost producer in all operating markets. So the company is appropriately sized to service all of the necessary markets that it's entered. So the efforts are focused on reducing costs, which provides a competitive financial and environmental advantage over competitors. The second one is a decentralized operating structure. So operations are managed separately and products are branded individually by companies, which increases familiarity with its customers. It increases brand recognition and it decreases transportation costs. So number 3 is operating in regionally diverse and attractive markets. So the population growth is a major driver of the construction market. Operations are focused on areas of increasing population. So right now the Sun Belt is expected to grow at 26% by the year 2040. And so that is where operations are currently focused right now to appeal to that rising market. And lastly, the last strategy is to achieve profitable growth through acquisition and organic development. So expansion through acquisition has resulted in the doubling of the cement capacity in their share in the US. So they are now the largest cement producer with the highest market share. So the company will continue this strategic pursuit and take advantage of the free cash flow and strong balance sheet to achieve its return on investment objectives. And going back to Emanuela.
Thank you. So on this slide, we're gonna We collected data of the firm and industry performance, and now we're going to determine if Eagle Materials has a competitive position. With their low-cost position, they continuously innovate to advance their low-cost producer position, and the low costs lead to higher margins, better returns, and free cash flow for Eagle Materials. Eagle Materials aims to use fewer resources to make the same products. Their geographic position, their plants are located near raw materials reserves and customers in the US, from California to Pennsylvania to Texas. Their geographic positions add value to the plant network. For their sales growth, their growth in Q2 of 2022 was above the competitors' growth. They reported a total revenue increase in the Q2 of 2022 by 18%. This was above their competitors' average revenue growth of 6.54%, recorded in the same quarter. Their high profitability, they have a higher profitability than their competitors. They achieved higher profitability than their competitors within a net margin of 18.7%. And in their net income in the Q2 of 2022, Eagle Materials net income grew year on year by 10.15%, actually slower than their competitors' income growth of 24.23%. So the recommendations for Eagle Materials are to have an aggressive business plan and maintaining and being a low-cost producer in all of their markets. They should continue to sustain a decentralized operating structure and operating purely in the United States. And that is the competitive position of Eagle Materials.
These are our following references that we have used to conduct our research and analysis for Eagle Materials Incorporation. We appreciate the time you have taken to watch this PowerPoint of its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you.